Now, this may sound stupid to you. You may be like, what the hell is this fat bastard talking about? You know, it's funny. For weeks, obviously, before I even started the series, I knew how the Sopranos ended. You know, the Fade to Black is a big, major pop culture event. I had never watched a single second of the show, and everybody was talking about it. Message boards, radio. I told you about Don Imus, my father, my friends. Like, you know, everybody was talking about this damn ending. So I had a pretty good idea. I thought he was eating French fries. That was how it was told to me, but obviously it was onion rings. And I thought there was doing a baseball cap, but I don't think there was. It was some other kind of cap. But and they talked about a guy going to the bathroom, which makes sense. And I'd heard various theories. I was kind of interested, like, you know, because clearly David Chase is not an idiot, right? So what was he trying to do? He's trying to make some kind of artistic point. And so I'd read various theories over the years. He was dead, and people had talked about there was things that they had said in previous episodes leading up to it that kind of pointed that way. And then I kind of left it at that. You know, I was more interested in shit like, you know, the ending to Battlestar Galactica, which totally sucked ass. Had no fucking plan. There was nothing textual about it. You know, it just sucked ass. And then Lost, which at the time I thought sucked ass. I've come to really appreciate it since then. In fact, there's a YouTube channel I just discovered recently that explains everything in Lost. Got to be one of the writers. They say they're not one of the writers, but they got to be one of the writers because like everything they say makes so much fucking sense. I'm like, holy shit, that's what this meant. That's what that meant. That's what the fuck they were doing. Blew my mind. So I've come to appreciate that ending a lot more. I think this is that kind of an ending. That if you get what he's trying to do, you're blown away and you think it's the best thing ever. If you don't get what he's trying to do, you're going to think it fucking sucks. Kind of like Jupiter Ascending. What the Wachowski siblings were trying to do was they were trying to do that old Flash Gordon serial 1930s movie where they each week in a movie theater, you know, you see some trailers, you see some cartoons, then you see a 10-minute serial that's one chapter of a fucking 10 episode movie. They show one chapter a week, and then they show the main movie, right? That used to be the experience back in the fucking 30s and 40s. So they were trying to do that one 10-minute serial. That's a chapter a week, right? Flash Gordon, fucking Lone Ranger, you know, cliffhanger, shit like that. You know, that's where the term cliffhanger came from. You'd have to come back next week. They want you to come to the theater every week, right? So you'd have to come back next week to see what happens. How do you get out of the fucking crash, the buggy crash, right? That's what they were doing with Jupiter Ascended. I knew what they were doing. I knew immediately what they were doing. They were trying to do the old fucking Flash Gordon from 100 years ago. And if you don't get that, you're going to think it's a bunch of fucking nonsense. Now, they still had some writing mistakes in it. You know, Filmito goes into that. I'm not trying to point you to all these other YouTube channels. It's just I live on YouTube. I don't do anything but YouTube. You know, this is my home. So I go around and I see shit. You know. So if you get what somebody's trying to do, you're going to be blown away. If you don't get what they're trying to do, it's going to be nonsensical. You know, so I think that's why this hits. And plus, it was nothing like this ever happened before. This finale was before the Lost finale. It was before the. It wasn't before the Battlestar Galactica finale. But again, they had no plan there, right? It was before some of these other finales. Like Blind Spot's a recent one that was just a fucking stroke of genius. The entire last season was utter dog shit. But the finale was so fucking good, it made that season actually good by itself. Unbelievable. Like, I've never seen it like it before. So the question is, what was David Chase trying to do? I've been convinced for weeks, probably since the second season of this series, that Tony was dead at the end of the series. That's what he was trying to do. Obviously, I had a general idea what the finale was, and then when I actually watched the finale with my own eyes, I was 100% convinced that he was dead. And that's what they were talking about. That's what they were doing. And so I came in here prepared to, you know, start this video and just talk about the fact he was dead. It's a fait accompli. It's, you know, there's no question about it. He's absolutely 100% dead. There's no other argument that'll sway me. And then I was going to talk about what that meant. Okay, that being the fact, what does it mean? Let's talk about what it means. And then I happened to listen. I told you Mike Lombardi is obsessed with The Sopranos. And I listen to his podcast every week. It's a GM Shuffle. You know, he's a football podcast. But he's fucking obsessed with The Sopranos. He's Italian. He grew up in Jersey. You know, like it was just, this show was made for this motherfucker. Also, he's pretty old. He's probably in his 60s now. This show was made for him. You know, so... And apparently, like, the reason that we're talking about the finale specifically this week was we just passed the 14-year anniversary. I wish I'd known this. I would have dropped this video on that day. I would have planned to end the series on that day if I had realized it was going to be the 14th anniversary of when, because we just passed the 20th anniversary when it first premiered, and then this was the 14th anniversary of the last episode. And so they were talking about, I wish I'd known that. Lost opportunity. But, so he was talking about the finale, and he was talking about his, and he raised one point that I was going to raise with the fact that Tony was dead. I'm going to tell you my point first, and I'm going to tell you what he said. My point that I was going to raise, knowing that he's dead, is who ordered the fucking hit? Like, who ordered the hit? Like, fucking Phil's dead. The other guy, they didn't set anything up with the other guys. And my complaint, my rant about this was going to be that it irritates me that they make us fill in the gaps, and that they could have just hinted with it. Yeah, who was there with that second command? Is that little Weasley motherfucker? The one that Tony pointed the gun at and he went, no, don't kill me. That motherfucker, right? We've been seeing him throughout, right? He's the right-hand man. Yeah. He's the one that ended up selling out Phil. Like, I'm not going to give you his location, but do what you got to do. All they had to say was, after they had their powwow, after they had their summit meeting, and Tony left, you could have stayed on them for a minute, and you could have had that motherfucker say, you know, he pointed that gun at me. He thought he was all big and bad, pointing that gun in my face. Well, one of these days, that's going to come back and bite him in the ass. And that's it. That's all you had to fucking do. Have him say something. So that it'll be like, it's emotional, it's personal to him. You made him feel like a bitch. I'm assuming if the intent is that Tony's dead, that's what it is. Because they really did emphasize it. Tony pointed the gun at him twice. Made him cow down twice. So, if I was going to point my finger at somebody, I'd be like, okay, it's personal. Tony made him feel like a bitch, and this is payback. That was what I would do. But I would also going to talk about how irritated it was that they didn't set it up. Just one line of dialogue is all it would take. One fucking line. And they refused to do it. Now, that's if the intent is that Tony's dead. But Mike Lombardi brought up something that's very interesting. But again, let me just emphasize the other point first before I get to that. He said, you know, who ordered the hit? We don't know. There's no evidence in the text of who ordered the hit. You know, it's not the five families. There's nobody else left. You know, he doesn't have any other enemies that we know of. It wasn't Little Carmine. You know, Phil's dead. The other thing you could possibly say is that Phil had ordered this hit. He'd hired a hitman from out of town or some shit. And the guy didn't know that Phil was dead, or he had nobody to pull the order back, so then he just carried it out. Because there wasn't that much of a time gap. They're always kind of funny on The Sopranos about how much time has passed between scenes. But there wasn't much of a time gap there. So, maybe this guy was just out of the loop, you know? And so he comes in there and he executes the order thinking that the war is still out. You know, the War of 1812, they had a big fucking battle in New Orleans because they didn't know the armistice had already been signed. They had this big-ass battle. All these people lost their fucking lives. The war was already over. But nobody had gotten the text message. Everybody already put their phones on silent and, you know, let their phones in the fucking ships, went to shore and did this battle and didn't check the messages until after the fact. You know, shit like that happens, right? So that would be the thing. But again, there's no textual evidence of that. We never see Phil talking about, okay, you, Mr. Assassin. It'd be on the phone. You don't want to show the face because then you would see the face in the diner, right? Be on the phone. Okay, make sure you get it done no matter what. Carry these orders out no matter what, even if something happens to me. That's all you had to fucking do. Again, that wasn't done. There's nothing in the text that's who ordered the hit. Okay, so that was the number one thing that Mike pointed out. I was going to point that out. Now, for me, that wasn't enough to say that Tony's not dead. Because I told you there's two things I can think of. The second in command, or a hit that had already been ordered that couldn't be pulled back because Phil was dead. But that's fan wink. They call it fan wink when a fan makes up an explanation that's not in the text. That's fan wink. But for me, that fan wink would be enough. It's logical enough. I'll be like, okay, I'll accept the premise. Let's move forward. But for Mike Lombardi, that set him down another road. He's like, okay, who ordered the hit? It makes no sense. So what is the explanation? The explanation he came up with. Now, he said David Chase also said that this is what it was. I don't believe that David Chase said that because I don't think David Chase has ever said what it was. But I don't know for sure. I've never listened to audio commentaries. I've never listened. It's been 14 years. I've never listened to any interviews he's done 10 years later. I don't know. I'm not saying Mike Lombardi's a liar. I'm just saying it would surprise me if David Chase had ever come out definitively and said what it was. So I don't know. This is a secondhand source. So I don't know. But he claims that David Chase said this. Or hinted at it or implied it or whatever. I don't know. His theory is the point of that final scene was to show how paranoid Tony is on a daily basis. That, the weight of the paranoia. He can never relax. Even when everything's done, he's settled everything, there's nobody coming after him, they're safe, and he's out having a good time with this family, he's still paranoid. He's still looking up every time the fucking door opens. He's still, anytime somebody's moving, he's glancing over. What's that? What's this person doing? What's that person doing? That's his life. Every day, every hour, every second, every minute of every fucking day, he's paranoid. He can never relax. That's hell. That is hell. And that really strikes a nerve with me. I can totally see that being David Chase's point. I can totally fucking see it. Because the last thing he does is he looks up. Now remember, the text said you never see it coming. Well, if you're going to have him die and never see it coming, why would he look up at the person getting ready to kill him? Because then he's seeing it coming, right? So it can't be, now you can say he's looking up the meadow and then he gets it from the side or from behind. Okay. But again, fan wank, right? We don't know. Like, we just know they say you never see it coming. That's kind of the point they're making, right? Phil didn't see it coming. It was somebody behind him. Bobby kind of saw it coming, I think. But you know what I'm saying. Like, we're not dealing in absolutes here. We're talking about an overall point, You can make a case see it coming means more than 2 seconds ahead of time, right? Like, you did that an hour ago, you didn't see it coming, and then you see someone pointing. You could make that point. Like, we're not trying to get really nitpicky here. But I do find it interesting that he looks up directly at the supposed gunner, right? The supposed assassin. Kind of cuts against this whole you never see it coming thing. So that's just something to keep in mind. It really works for me. It really works for me that the only point he's trying to make is this is Tony's life. This is his paranoid life. This is what it's like for him every minute of every day. And you cut it suddenly because it's never going to end. You're not going to cut it suddenly. You cut it in the middle of the tension to show the point it never ends for him. You don't cut it when Meadow sits down and everybody's laughing. He gives her a hug and a kiss. It's more relaxed. We're out of his head again. You cut it suddenly because we're in his head and he's paranoid. And this is his life every second of every day. That really, really works for me. It shows us we end the series thinking, okay, well, no matter what he gets away with, he's not really getting away with anything. No matter how many times he wins, the paranoia never ends. It's always there. So I really like that. And I think that that's going to be my headcanon from here. It's amazing. Like, I'm an open-minded person, but I tend to be I'm also pretty stubborn with my opinions. But, if you have a convincing argument, you can sway me. And I've been swayed with this argument. It's very convincing. I really like it. Obviously, he's going to probably end up in prison. I mean, they've got a lot on him. But, I really like that. I really do. So, putting that aside, I still have some things I want to talk about, assuming that he did die at the end of the series. Let's just go with that because I spent a lot of time thinking about what I was going to say about this and what I thought about it and all that stuff. And I was going to, like I said, I was going to go into who already hit that. Doesn't make any sense, but let's put that aside. And let's just address the big picture here. What I find really interesting, if Tony died at the end of the series, what I find really, really interesting about that is he made a series of decisions through the course of the series that isolated him and made it advantageous for people to kill him. And essentially, because Phil said that they had redundant upper management. But I don't think that's true, actually. Because Tony had killed several people that were high-ranking in his organization, that if you hadn't killed them, they would still be around, and you would really have redundant management. And the other thing about redundant management is, say you have 8 people that can all lead the army. You got to kill all 8 of them. But if the leader of the army has killed 4 of the other people capable of leading the army, there's only him and 3 others. You can fuck it. It's a lot easier to wipe out cut off the head to kill the body, right? And that's what Tony has done. He's systematically wiped out a lot of people that could have helped him here at the end. Ralphie, for instance. Ralphie could have helped him. Ralphie he's a gunslinger. He's a hothead. He's a warrior. He's not somebody you want to fuck around with. He's smart. He's not a bitch. He'll go out and take care of a hit for you. He's a little bit impulsive. And obviously he's a smart ass and super annoying. But think about if Ralphie was still alive during these final couple episodes. Would they have dared to do it then? Like, would they dare? Okay, now we got to hit 4 people. Damn, man, now we got to take out 4 people at once. Is that possible? Maybe we should come up with some other solution. And Ralphie only died because Tony lost his fucking temper about the stupid horse and all that shit. Now, by the way, I want to make this clear. I wanted Ralphie dead. I cheer for Ralphie. If I was Tony, I probably would have killed Ralphie too. I'm not saying I'm any better than Tony. I'm saying what Tony should have done. If Tony hadn't killed Ralphie, Ralphie would still be there, and there'd be some insulation to save his life. Another one is Chrissy. Chrissy's a fuck up. He's a junkie. He wasn't quite with him as much as before. But if Chrissy heard that there was a hit out on people, he would have circled the wagons. He would have been right there. Take care of his family, put his family in with Carmela and the other people, and he's right there in the front lines. And that's another fucking head you have to chop off. Now you have to order 5 hits. Is Phil going to order 5 hits? You got to hit 5 people at the same time. You got to make sure you get them all or you're fucked. Would he do it then? Man, that's rough, man. That's rough. So that's another person that Tony killed. Recently, very soon before this all happened. I don't think Chrissy would have been as valuable as Ralphie. And who knows, anything could have happened with Ralphie in the intervening years. But I'm just saying, like, if something happens that, Tony can't control, though he can't control. I'm talking about what he can't control, and he can control these 2 people. He can't control the fact that these 2 people are dead. Because he did it, right? So, I think that came back to bite him in the ass. His tendency and he almost killed Paulie, don't forget. We all know he was thinking about killing Paulie. This is his tendency to eat his own. To betray and murder the people around him. And I'm not saying he didn't have probable cause because he did. And I'm not saying I didn't cheer and dance because I did. But if he hadn't, think about an alternate universe if he hadn't done it. And if he does die at the end of the series, this would have kept him from dying. That's a problem. I think that's his fatal flaw. Like, I've never liked the idea of sacrificing people who are loyal to you. My whole life. I've never been in these life or death situations, but even in business world. It's like, there was a time an investor was going to give me a bunch of money if I would uncast 2 actors who were part of this project. I had 6 actors attached to this project. I'd already cast them. They'd say, get rid of these 2 actors and we'll give you this money. And I wouldn't do it. And now I'm sitting here broke, and, I could have had that on my resume. I could have a lot more money. Who knows what would happen? That could have led to other big projects. It was probably a mistake business-wise, but I don't regret it on a personal level because you don't betray people who are loyal to you. Period. You just don't do it. That's the worst thing I can ever imagine is betraying somebody you're loyal to. Who you're loyal to and they're loyal to you. It's the worst thing I can imagine. I just refuse to do it. And I know he has no personal loyalty to anybody else, and he rationalized everything about him. He's a fucking narcissistic asshole and all this shit. I get that. But man, did it bite him in the ass. Man, could he really use these other people. There may have even been a way to preserve his cousin, Tony, That's a little more sticky, because Tony did some shit. And Anthony, I guess Tony B, whatever, I can't remember his name. We'll call him Tony B so it's not confusing. Our Tony couldn't, it wasn't like he intentionally didn't know what Tony B was going to do until after the fact. That's why they had the long dream. He's like, wait a minute, that's what the fuck he was going to do. And he woke up and it was too late. So there's no way to prevent that. So then you're already painted in the corner. At that point, you either go to war with New York or you let this happen. You have to sacrifice your cousin. And I can't remember what I said at the time, but I think I was against, I would just be like, well, fuck, go to war. And they ended up going to war anyway, right? Couldn't satisfy the son of a bitch. It's just, and I've said since then, well, okay, so if he spent 2 days torturing Tony B to death, would the beef be over? Would that be it? Or would he still be holding a fucking grudge? Would he still be like, well, I think you ordered it, Tony. I think he would have still held a grudge no matter what. So just fucking go to war with him now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that's not it's not the financial decision to make, but in hindsight, they might as well have. But, so, my overall point here, if Tony died, I think the number one reason why he died was because he killed Ralphie and because he killed Chrissy. And, on top of that, his general mistreatment of his underlings in general. I know I said general twice, but he mistreats the people who work for him. He doesn't reward loyalty. He beats up his driver just so he can feel like a man again. And then we don't see the guy anymore. Now, that was probably a casting reason. The actor probably wanted to do other shit, wasn't getting much work. But if we're going to just keep it in universe, we can say that as soon as that guy found a better deal, he moved on to some other crew or something, or some other part of the country. Because he's like, fuck this dude. That's what I would do. He doesn't reward people. He's physically and mentally and emotionally abusive to the people who work with him. He belittles them at all times. He's just a piece of shit. Look how he belittled Chrissy, for instance. Maybe Chrissy, another thing, if he had treated Chrissy better, maybe Chrissy wouldn't have drifted away from him in the first place. So by his belittling people and by him treating them like shit, then they're more inclined to turn state's evidence and cooperate with the FBI. Why not? Why wouldn't they? So I think that's another problem he has. He would have like Carlo and some of these other people. These people maybe, now some of them probably would have no matter what you did, but I think at least a couple of them turned state's evidence and cooperated with the FBI because Tony treated him like a piece of shit. Somebody like Paulie, I don't think it would matter how you treat him. He's always going to find something to bitch about. But the other people, so, and he didn't treat Silvio that way, And Silvio was very loyal to him till the end. So, I think he dug his own grave. If he died, he dug his own grave. Hey, future me here. I forgot to make one of my most important, crucial points about the Sopranos finale. So, let me just pop back in here and make that point real quick. This was going to be much more important when I was convinced that Tony died at the end of the series. But if you believe Tony died at the end of the series, this is something for you to think about. If Tony dies at the end of the series, I don't think they earn it for one very important reason. Point of view. See, this series is not told just from Tony's point of view. You can tell that for a fact because they don't just have we don't just see Tony's dreams. We also see Carmela's dreams. We see Vito's dreams. We see Paulie's dreams. I think there's a couple other characters we've seen dreams of. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. But I know for a fact we've seen those 4 people's dreams. In fact, speaking of Vito, we even get Vito's internal monologue, which I don't think we do with anybody else. I don't think it's happened any other time in the entire series. When he's sitting there working and he's thinking about how long his workday is taking and he wants to have lunch. And then after lunch, it'll just be a half a day and it'll almost be over. He looks at his watch, it's like fucking 10 o'clock. That internal monologue takes like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, right? We're in his head. We're hearing his thoughts. He's not speaking out loud. We're inside his head, which means we're in his point of view. So you can't end a series on one character's point of view when throughout the course of the series you've been another character's point of view. It'd almost be like, with Harry Potter, it's like everything's in his point of view, with the exception of like 2 chapters out of the entire 7 books. Everything else is in point of view. And when you talk about all the chapters are in his point of view versus what's not, the series is his point of view. So, there's a point in the series, spoiler alert, if you've never seen it or you want to read it, go ahead and jump out. But there's a point in the series where Harry dies. We don't follow the other people in the fucking battle when Harry's dead. We follow Harry into the afterlife. And we don't return to the field of battle until Harry comes back from the dead. We're not sitting here following around what other people are doing. When Harry separates from his friends during the battle, he does his thing and they do theirs. We don't hear it. We don't know what they do until they come back and they tell Harry what they did. We don't know what they did. We don't know what they did. Because we're in Harry's point of view. So, what would it be like if they kill Harry and then we have 10 chapters with other people's point of view? It'd be weird. You're like, wait a minute, what the fuck is going on here? Why are we doing this? You can't shift points of view when it's only been one point of view for the entire series. Just like you can't tell a story from multiple point of views and then just fucking abruptly end the series when one character who we've seen their point of view dies. You can't do that. It doesn't work. That's the biggest problem I have with the whole Tony. When he dies, we fade to black and we end the series. What they're implying, if he dies right there, what they're implying is that the series has only been told from his point of view, which means when he's dead, the series is over. Except we've been in other people's points of view, right? Now, this may sound stupid to you. You may be like, what the hell is this fat bastard talking about? But I'm telling you, it matters. As a writer, it matters. Point of view matters. There's a reason you set these things up. There's a reason stories are told in third person or first person. If you're reading a novel in first person and they die, the novel's over. If a novel's being told from, like, say there's 3 books, book 1, book 2, book 3. Book 1's from one point of view. Book 2's from the second point of view. And then at the end of that book 2, that character dies, which I've seen happen before. It just abruptly ends. It'll be like, I didn't have time to, and there'll be a dash, and that's it, right? Because they're dead. You flip over the page, and it starts with a new character's point of view. Okay, you set that up. You had 2 different points of view before that third section of the novel, right? So that can work. But what you can't do is you can't tell a series from a bunch of points of view and then abruptly end the fucking series in the middle of a sentence, in the middle of a fucking song, just completely cut to black, not even fade to black, cut to black because one character dies. Because what, like I said, I know I'm repeating myself, but I think it's worth saying at least more than once. Because you're saying it's only been told from Tony's point of view when it has not been only told from Tony's point of view. It doesn't fucking work. So that's just the other thing I wanted to add. Like, point of view matters, and that was going to be my objection to him dying. I'm going to be like, okay, well, I guess he died, but here's why I don't like it. Now that I don't believe he died, this is just strengthens why I don't believe he died. So, food for thought, if you still believe he died. It's just something to think about. So that's about all I have to say about the ending. Like I said before, if they're not going to put in the groundwork to tell you specifically on screen what an ending means, I'm not going to waste my time trying to figure it out. I'm not going to try to find any hidden clues and, any of that shit. I watched it, and then when I edited it, I saw it like 5 more times. That's it. Like, I've seen it, and there was nothing in there talking about, what the ending meant, so whatever. I've been talking about it for 20 minutes, but I can't help myself. It's what I do, right? So, what are you going to do? But I'm not going to waste any more time on that. Like, the ending is what it is. I actually do appreciate it a lot more now than I did even just a couple days ago when I first saw it. I think it was a brilliant move. It was a bold move, and it was a brilliant move. So, bravo.